Part 1. The physiology of sleep onset and de-escalating hyperarousal. Your current sleep latency, 30 minutes to 3 hours, suggests a state of psychophysiological insomnia or conditioned arousal. Essentially, your brain has associated the bed with wakefulness, thinking, and effort, rather than rest. To break this, we must move beyond basic hygiene and utilize aggressive physiological triggers that force the autonomic nervous system to switch from sympathetic, fight or flight or alert, to parasympathetic, rest or digest. Thermal manipulation, the core body temperature drop. The mechanism: you cannot fall asleep until your core body temperature drops by approximately 23 F(11.5°C). This is a biological non-negotiable. If you are too warm, or if your body thinks it needs to conserve heat, sleep onset will be chemically blocked. The body dumps heat through the glabrous skin surfaces, the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and the upper half of your face. Strategy 1. The warm bath effect. Counterintuitive. The protocol: take a hot shower or bath 60-90 minutes before bed. Why it works: it's not about being cozy. The heat dilates the blood vessels, vasodilation, on the surface of your skin. When you step out of the heat into a cool room, that blood rushes to the surface, and massive amounts of heat radiate out of your body. This causes a rapid crash in core temperature, which signals the release of melatonin. Specific tweak: if you cannot shower, fill a sink with hot water and submerge your hands and wrists for 3-5 minutes. This creates a similar systemic cooling effect via the palms. Strategy 2. The feet-out method. The protocol: keep your room cool, 65-68 F or 18-20 C, but wear warm socks to bed. Crucial step: once you are in bed and ready to sleep, push one or both feet out from under the covers. Why it works: cold feet constrict blood vessels, trapping heat in the core, bad for sleep. Warm socks keep the vessels open, dilated. Exposing the warm, dilated foot to cool air acts as a radiator, rapidly dumping heat from the core. This is often the switch for the final temperature drop required for unconsciousness. 2. Optical signaling. Managing photon sensitivity. The mechanism: it is not just about avoiding blue light, it is about the angle and intensity of light. Melanopsin ganglion cells, the light sensors that regulate your clock, are concentrated in the lower half of the retina. This means they are most sensitive to light coming from above, overhead lights, which mimics the sun. Strategy 3. The caveman lighting protocol. The protocol: from sunset onwards, or 3 hours before bed, turn off all overhead lights. Use only floor lamps or desk lamps that are positioned below eye level. Why it works: light hitting the top of the retina from below is less stimulating to the circadian clock than light hitting the bottom of the retina from above. Red light specifics: switch your phone or screens to red tint mode, not just night shift. You want the screen to look practically red. On iPhone, this is found in accessibility greater than display and text size greater than color filters. Red light has the least power to suppress melatonin. Strategy 4. Morning optic flow. The setup for tonight. The protocol: you must view bright light, ideally sunlight, within 30 minutes of waking up. Why it works: sleep is an oscillating system. The timer for tonight's melatonin release is started by this morning's light pulse. If you miss the morning light, your sleepiness timer will drift later, causing that 3-hour delay you are experiencing. 3. Cognitive de-escalation. Breaking the thinking loop. The 3-hour lie-awake period is usually fueled by racing thoughts or looping thoughts. Trying to stop thinking creates a rebound effect, ironic process theory. You cannot suppress thought, you must displace it. Strategy 5. Cognitive shuffling. The serial diverse imaging method. The protocol: when you are in bed with eyes closed, visualize a random object, example, toaster. Hold the image for 5 seconds. Then, visualize a completely unrelated object, example, football. Then, giraffe. Then, spoon. Why it works: logical thinking, planning, worrying is highly structured and connected. Sleep onset involves micro-dreams, fragmented, nonsensical associations. By forcing your brain to generate random, unconnected images, you mimic the cognitive state of sleep onset. This tricks the brain into thinking it is safe to fall asleep and disrupts the logical worry loops. Advanced variation. Pick a letter example. B. Visualize a word starting with B, bear. Visualize it. Then, ball. Visualize it. When you run out, pick a new letter. Do not create a story. The lack of narrative connection is the key. Strategy 6. Physiological sighing. Immediate brake pedal. The protocol. Inhale deeply through your nose. Then, without exhaling, take a second, shorter inhale through the nose, popping the alveoli open. Then, exhale slowly and fully through the mouth. Repeat 3-5 times. Why it works. This is a biological reflex discovered in the 1930s. It offloads maximum carbon dioxide, CO2, from the lungs in real time. High CO2 is a stress signal. By dumping CO2 and mechanically expanding the lungs, you directly trigger the vagus nerve to slow the heart rate. It is the fastest known way to reduce autonomic arousal in real time. IV. The stimulus control rule. The hardest but most necessary step. The mechanism: if you lie in bed awake for 3 hours, your brain is learning. Bed equals thinking or frustration. You are actively training yourself to have insomnia. You must break this association. Strategy 7. The 20-minute eject button. The protocol. If you have not fallen asleep after what feels like 20-25 minutes, do not look at the clock. Get out of bed. The rule. You must leave the bedroom completely. Go to a dimly lit room. Read a paper book, nothing exciting. Stretch, or listen to soft music. The return: do not return to bed until you feel sleepy, heavy eyelids, head nodding, not just tired. Why it works. This is the gold standard of CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It reconditions the brain to associate the bed only with sleep. If you stay in bed awake, you are reinforcing the problem. V. Nutritional and chemical timing. Strategy 8. The caffeine or adenosine equation. The protocol. Absolute zero caffeine intake 10-12 hours before your target bedtime. Why it works. Caffeine has a quarter life of about 12 hours in many people. If you drink coffee at 2 p.m., 25% of that caffeine is still biologically active at 2 a.m., blocking your adenosine receptors, the chemical that makes you feel sleep pressure. Strategy 9. The glycemic crash. The protocol. Eat a moderate amount of high glycemic carbohydrates, like white rice or a banana, with your last meal, 3 to 4 hours before bed. But avoid eating within 3 hours of sleep. Why it works. The carb intake increases tryptophan availability to the brain, precursor to serotonin or melatonin. However, digestion generates heat, thermogenesis. If you eat right before bed, your core body temperature will rise, preventing the temperature drop mentioned in Strategy 1. Summary of action plan for tonight. 1. Morning. Get sunlight immediately. 2. Evening. Hot shower 1 hour before bed. 3. Environment. Room cold, socks on. Lights low and below eye level. 4. In bed. Socks on. Feet out. Do the physiological sigh, 3 to 5 reps. Start cognitive shuffling. 5. Emergency. If awake greater than 20 minutes, get out of bed. This concludes Part 1, Physiological and Environmental Focus. Would you like me to proceed to Part 2? Part 2 will cover advanced supplements, psychological frameworks, daytime protocols to build sleep drive, and paradoxical intention strategies. This is Part 2 of the comprehensive guide to conquering sleep latency. While Part 1 focused on the immediate physiology of temperature and light, Part 2 dives into the psychological architecture of insomnia, chemical interventions, and advanced daytime protocols to build massive sleep pressure. Part 2, Psychological warfare and the chemistry of sleep. Your struggle with falling asleep 30 minutes to 3 hours is likely fueled by sleep performance anxiety. You get into bed, you try to sleep, you fail, and the frustration spikes your cortisol, making sleep impossible. This section is about breaking that loop and optimizing your internal chemistry. I. Psychological interventions. Rewiring the fear of being awake. The single biggest enemy of sleep is the effort to sleep. Sleep is an involuntary process. You cannot do it, you can only set the stage for it to happen. Strategy 10. Paradoxical intention. The anti-sleep method. The concept, Developed by Viktor Frankl, this technique targets the performance anxiety of sleep. When you try to force sleep, your brain monitors your success or failure, keeping you alert. The protocol: 1. Get into bed. Keep your eyes open. 2. Tell yourself, I am going to stay awake for as long as possible. I will just rest my body, but I will not let my brain sleep. 3. Gently focus on keeping your eyelids open. Do not stare or strain, just passively observe the room in the dark. 4. When your eyelids feel heavy, say, no, I need to stay awake a bit longer. Why it works. By giving yourself permission and the goal to stay awake, you remove the anxiety of not sleeping. The brain stops monitoring for sleep onset. The fight or flight response deactivates, and the parasympathetic system takes over. Ironically, trying to stay awake makes it incredibly difficult to resist sleep. Strategy 11. The worry dump. Externalizing cognitive load. The concept: your brain loops on problems at night because it is afraid it will forget them by morning. It keeps them in RAM, active working memory. The protocol: 1. Keep a physical notebook and pen, no phones, by your bed. 2. 1 to 2 hours before bed, write down every unfinished task, worry, or looping thought you have. 3. Next to each item, write the very next specific action you will take tomorrow. Example: email boss, greater than draft email at 9:15 a.m. Why it works. Writing it down signals to your brain that the information is saved and safe. Assigning a time or action allows the brain to close the tab. This is distinct from journaling. It is purely logistical offloading. 2. The sleep pressure equation. Adenosine management. Sleep is driven by 2 forces. 1. Circadian rhythm, your 24-hour clock, handled in part 1. 2. Homeostatic sleep drive, the accumulation of adenosine. The mechanism: adenosine is a byproduct of energy usage, ATP. Every minute you are awake and active, adenosine builds up in your brain. When levels get high enough, they bind to receptors that shut down wakefulness. If you take 3 hours to fall asleep, your sleep pressure is likely too low when you hit the pillow. Strategy 12. Restricted sleep windows compression therapy. The protocol: 1. If you usually wake up at 7:00 a.m., but you don't fall asleep until 2:00 a.m., do not go to bed at 11:00 p.m. hoping for a miracle. 2. Temporarily set your bedtime to 1:30 a.m. or whenever you are actually falling asleep. 3. Strictly wake up at 7:00 a.m., no naps. 4. You will be tired. That is the point. You are building massive adenosine pressure. 5. Once you are falling asleep within 15 minutes for 3 nights in a row, move your bedtime earlier by 15 minutes. 1:15 a.m., then 1:00 a.m., etc. Why it works? This condenses your sleep efficiency. You are training your brain that bed equals instant sleep. It is brutal for the first 3 days, but it is the single most effective cure for chronic insomnia. Strategy 13. Non-sleep deep rest, NSDR or Yoga Nidra. The protocol: 1. Find a 10 to 20 minute NSDR or Yoga Nidra audio track, YouTube or apps. 2. Do this in the afternoon, around 2 to 3 p.m., or right before sleep if you are anxious. 3. This involves a body scan where you systematically relax specific body parts while breathing deeply. Why it works. NSDR mimics the brainwave states of sleep, theta or delta, while you remain vaguely conscious. It replenishes dopamine in the basal ganglia and dramatically lowers cortisol. If you do this before bed, it acts as a buffer zone, transitioning your brain from beta waves, alert or thinking, to alpha waves, relaxed or idling. 3. Supplementation. The sleep cocktail, non-sedative. Disclaimer: I am an AI, not a doctor. Consult your physician before adding supplements, especially if you take other medications. Most people take melatonin, which is a hormone, and can disrupt your endogenous production if used incorrectly or long-term. Instead, focus on compounds that increase GABA, the brakes of the brain, or lower cortisol. Strategy 14. The Huberman Lab or Walker Protocol. Consider these 3 specific compounds 30-60 minutes before bed. 1. magnesium threonate 145 mg or bisglycinate 200 mg. Why? Unlike standard magnesium oxide or citrate, which acts as a laxative, threonate can cross the blood-brain barrier. It directly supports GABA receptors, helping to shut off the racing mind. Bisglycinate is a good alternative that is physically relaxing. 2. Apigenin 50 mg. Why? A derivative of chamomile, but much more potent. It acts as a mild chloride channel agonist, helping to hyperpolarize neurons, making them less likely to fire. It essentially turns down the volume on neuronal chatter. 3. L-theanine 100 to 200 mg. Why? An amino acid found in green tea. It increases alpha brain waves, associated with relaxation or meditation. Warning: do not take if you have vivid nightmares or sleepwalking, as it can intensify dreams. IV. Advanced breathing, the vagus nerve trigger. If you are lying in bed and your heart rate feels fast, you are physiologically incapable of sleep. You must manually slow the heart. Strategy 15. The 4-7-8 technique. The protocol. 1. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound. 2. Close your mouth and inhale quietly through your nose to a count of 4. 3. Hold your breath for a count of 7. 4. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound to a count of 8. 5. Repeat 4 times. Why it works? The long exhale 8 count mimics the breathing pattern of deep sleep. By forcing this pattern, you trigger respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Your heart rate slows down during the exhale. The hold, 7 count, allows CO2 to build up slightly, which dilates blood vessels and increases sedation. V. Troubleshooting. The middle of the night wake up. Waking up at 3 a.m. is different from not falling asleep. It is usually driven by a drop in blood glucose or a spike in cortisol. Strategy 16. The glucose stabilizer. The fix. If you consistently wake up at 3 a.m. alert, try eating a small amount of fat or protein right before bed. Example: a spoonful of almond butter or a small piece of cheese. Why? This prevents the blood sugar crash that triggers adrenaline to release stored glucose, which wakes you up. Strategy 17. The eye roll trick. The fix. When eyes are closed, gently roll your eyes up as if looking at your eyebrows. Why? There is some evidence suggesting that during deep sleep states, eyes naturally roll upward. Mimicking this position can trigger a parasympathetic response. Summary of Part 2, Action Plan. 1. Afternoon, do 20 minutes of NSDR or Yoga Nidra to lower baseline stress. 2. Evening, worry dump into a notebook 2 hours before bed. 3. Bedtime, take magnesium threonate or apigenin if cleared by doctor. 4. In bed, use paradoxical intention, I will try to stay awake. 5. Breathing, use 4-7-8 breathing if heart rate is high. Would you like me to proceed to Part 3? Part 3 will cover the final optimizations, soundscaping, bedding ergonomics, and a 7-day implementation schedule to combine all these strategies.